start off by talking a little bit about the lay of the land for the next hour, and also ProductTank, so everybody knows how and why we're here. I don't know if there's a way, show of hands, who this is their first ProductTank ever. I'd love to see how many newbies we have. There's one.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, welcome, William. Thanks for joining. I am Molly McCartan. I'm a co-facilitator with Kent McDonald, who Dylan pointed out is KVP Media on here, and Jody Jones. And so the three of us will be doing our best to get monthly get-togethers scheduled based out of Des Moines-Ames area, where ProductTank Des Moines-Ames. We might have some folks. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
What? That's two. That's number two.
There is so much happening right now. And I have no idea what it's about. That's amazing.
Go, Molly, go. You've only got one more to get through.
One more. Here it
There we go.
comes.
The boom.
All right, let's see if that's your turn, Molly. She has nothing else to do there.
Oh, there's another. Oh, my God.
Okay. All right. I can get in on that. That was a good push. I like that.
First, it can never be a doom. Ashley and mother of big justice.
I don't want
Can
to
we
say
make it?
anything. I feel like I'm going to make it worse.
You're going to make
Okay.
it happen again, Dylan.
I am.
I
I know
apologize. The joys of virtual meetings. So if any of you have not had that happen before, it's a joy, but we'll keep pushing through. So ProductTank is an informal, not-for-profit meetup that is really aimed to bring the local product community together. Whether you're product managers, startup founders, developers, leaders, we welcome all, and we really want to just use it as an opportunity to share experiences. ProductTank itself was founded in 2010 in London as part of Mind the Product. Today, there are ProductTanks in more than 200 cities across the globe. They're always free to attend. They're organized by volunteers from our product community, and Kent, Jody, and myself. We're always looking for sponsors and or hosts. So after today, if you see opportunity either with your organization or you have a topic you'd like to share, reach out to one of the three of us, and we'd be happy to talk about that. Ways to get in touch with us are on our meetup site. Obviously, you were there. We also have a LinkedIn page, and I'll go ahead and try to share those yet on this call. So like I mentioned, we do this monthly. I think are trying to skip March because of spring break, because a lot of times we don't get very much attendance that month. And then Christmas and maybe one other time. Maybe a plug for February. We have already posted, and Jody is leading that one. It's going to be on February 18th. Navigating the leadership landscape, the dynamic duo of leadership and management. And that will be hosted at Lean Techniques in Johnston. So take a peek at that, and we'd love to see you there. That will be in person. So a little different, and hopefully we won't have anybody jumping into those calls while we're there. So again, check out our meetup site for all of those events, and let us know if you're interested in pitching in. So tonight, it's a fishbowl conversation. We're going to have Dylan and Josh, the dynamic duo, discuss transformation and living the reality. They are product professionals. I'm going to try to summarize their bios because I'm sure you all read them. Dylan is a senior business agility consultant and has found a happy home for his human-centric, product-driven passions. He's been providing servant leadership to teams at the intersection of business and technology for over 20 years. He's motivated by a deep appreciation for people and the satisfaction of helping them unlock their full potential for joyful, powerful work. Dylan is in the colorful shirt in my top left corner. Then we've got Josh VandeWiele, who leads the enterprise coaching group at Principal Financial Group. I think a lot of you know his face and have heard of him. Started as a sergeant in the Marines, and after that has had various technology and tech leadership roles. And he loves helping people love their job and help customers love their experience. So with that, the way that tonight is going to go, and asking for some forgiveness maybe ahead of time because we've not done this before, but we're going to do our best to do a virtual fishbowl. So Dylan and Josh are going to kick it off, talk a little bit about the topic, transformation, the messy transformation and living the reality. And then we're going to open the fishbowl. So if you have something that you'd like to talk about along those same lines, or if you've got questions for our speakers, we'll ask for hands. And Kia, who is on here, is going to help moderate, and we'll tell you who is in the fishbowl. So that's how we hope it goes. There will probably be some bumps in the road, but we'll get there. So with that, Dylan and Josh, table is yours.
Can I go first, Josh?
Obviously.
Oh, I'm in there. I gotta go. So I am so happy to be here with you particular people talking about this particular topic. And I will just say as a side note that anytime that someone says something positive about Josh and he goes,
Josh,
at
fuck
that
this
point,
little girl.
everyone take a drink. That is when, that is our drinking game right now. Josh cannot handle really good feedback about his wonderful self. And it'll be very obvious. See, there you go. People should be just knocking something back right now. I know we're ready for this. We didn't put this out as what you needed to be ready for, but prepare yourself for the rest of the meeting. So, hi, folks. I'm Dylan Hatch. I love working with smart people, handling difficult topics and digging into difficult problems.
Handling little boys, little nonsense. Touch little boys, don't you, Dylan? Don't lie to me. Touch little boys. We've seen you do.
Wait! You gotta tell me more.
That was the fourth one. Go,
Okay.
Dylan. We're good. We got it covered, man.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we will move on uninterrupted. So, here to talk with you about the experience of change and what it is like for individuals and teams and organizations. And it's hard. And we need to acknowledge that it is difficult to change. We are programmed to find a pattern that works for us and stick with it. And we need to move outside of that programming in order to make change and try new things that might allow us and our teams to have a better level of success. So what does that look like in reality? And I love to talk about this. This is why I'm so excited about this topic.
Just like you're excited about little boys. You get excited about little boys, don't you, Dylan? Don't lie. I've seen you.
Bye now,
got
Chris.
CCTV
Thank you so
footage.
much. You're fantastic. Just leap right off the edge of the flat Earth, and we'll be right back on our mode here. So that is the thing that we're going to be talking about, is when there is serious change to happen within your organization. How can you set realistic expectations to where you can have the whole organization actually learn how to support each other better while delivering the results that you want? How can you find that connection between everyone within your organization and the specific need of your customers that allows you all to break the barriers between your relative positions in the company? This is fascinating to me, and That's why I'm particularly happy to be here talking with you about it. And I will take a breath to leave a little oxygen in the room for everyone else. And maybe Josh might have a hello to say.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I can say hi. And I'm so the fishbowl concept, definitely want to like be fast and loose with that. And I'm here to learn just like Dylan is, just as much as everybody else is. And the word transformation, as it makes its way into like this conversation and so many conversations, I don't know. I'm in a pretty big company, and you know, the word transformation gets used in so many different contexts. And you think about the fatigue that people end up getting like run into with talking about transformation. It gets hard to keep bringing new and different energy to that word and explain what it really means. And that's one thing that I've been talking a lot with folks at Principal over the last several years is putting a little bit of weight and sincerity to the word transformation, because transformation, as it's been done over the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, I feel like it's been just a monetary thing. It's been monetized by different companies through frameworks and selling consulting and different things like that. And it's worst. And its best, it's catalyzed change in really great ways. The thing that's been I've been really passionate about is how can we make it sticky. In leading a coaching group and being a coach, I'm always really interested in how can transformation not be a project, but how can it just be how we work and how we continue to evolve as a team of teams, as an organization. How do we make it to where I can put myself out of a job? And when we talk about transformation, it's like, oh yeah, sure, we're transforming because that's just what we do. So that's been like, I don't know, that's been an element that's been on my mind for quite a while. It's just making it sticky.
Oh,
I've
that
worked
gives
with,
me so
yeah,
many ideas. But, you know, Josh, you know, every time you say something, I have 8 things to say that I think
let's go.
connect with what you say, right? So this is an investigatory discussion for all of you, where you think about, how might I ask questions? How might I understand and support a transformation effort? And that's going to be different for each one of you, depending on your role, your experience, so many things. And that's where we're going to depend on you for your questions about how you can actually actively engage in a change movement. And it is absolutely possible for anyone in any position in a company to be a change agent, to be a change champion. And a lot of what we're talking about is, how does that actually work? So I'm asking you all to think about your role. Think about a change you want to be a champion for. And then think about how you might partake in fostering that change for yourself. That'll help us kind of zero in on the conversation that we're having here.
Wait, let's start by just everybody, if you've got something to say or a question or an answer to what Dylan's saying, go ahead and jump in. If we start to get too many people, then we'll do the raise a hand thing. But we'll try to be respectful. I know people have a lot of change going on. No comments, questions?
Too many people. Oh yeah. So I found that it's, you know, yeah, often easy to say you should always jump in and start being the change. And I've tried to do that too. But when hasn't it worked for you, right? Can you think of a time when like you've said like I should be able to try to crowbar change here, but when's that time when you go maybe not here, maybe not this situation, maybe this is that time to say screw it.
Right. Okay, I love that question. I'll chime in for starters. I've had that feeling in multiple situations, and the tricky part is telling when it's time to just hear the input and let it rest, and when that input can give you another action to take. I think actually what I find is that if there are people who are opposed to the change that we're taking, say we're moving to a product model and people are used to the way that they have earned their living for decades perhaps, that the resistance to the discussion, to my mind, just means it's time to reframe the discussion, because that means that my frame of mindset, where I talk about how I love teams that live and breathe discovery throughout their entire delivery cycle, that makes sense to me. It doesn't necessarily make sense to everyone else that I'm talking to. And that's part of why this topic is fascinating to me, is that you can't just say it and everyone gets it. You need to communicate to all of the people who are involved. Josh, am I hitting it or am I missing it?
No, I'm liking it. And so this is something that came up today for me. I was talking to another coach, and I was thinking about, so we're a lot of product nerds on here. And when I think about change or I think about transformation, I oftentimes try to think about it like a product. I don't know, because running a transformation or any type of coaching engagement like a project feels stupid to me. Or, I mean, even though sometimes you do need to pull out an old Gantt chart and run that thing and manage. But if you think about something like transformation, maybe it's like decompress it and just let's talk about change, like introducing change and maybe around the universe of ways of working. Who are the customers and who are the users? That was a conversation that came up for me today. Who are the consumers, the customers of the change, and who are the users? And in many cases, for me in this moment, the customer, which is usually the person that has buying power, right? That's usually a leader at some altitude, right? And then the customers, well, that's a myriad of people. And so you can start to see how I begin thinking about coaching engagements, because that's my business. But even just change in general is I want to know my customers. I want to map those users, and I want to understand what each of them needs. So Dylan, when you were talking about what you were just speaking to, it made me think about understanding your users and understanding the buying power, the needs of the people that have buying power. And so for me, that's been something that's helped keep me honest. I'm still failing repeatedly, but hopefully in more interesting and elegant ways every time. But those are things they're top of mind for me, because what's going to be impactful and is going to be valuable, maybe as a user being like an engineer, is going to be a little bit different than what's going to be impactful when I'm trying to sell change. I'm really killing this whole product thing. Sorry, I'm beating it to death here.
Work it. Do it.
But I'm going to sell that. I'm going to communicate that different to leadership, and their motivations are different too, right? Like what leadership is looking for. I'm not, and by different, I don't mean like they're usually not like contradictory. It's not as if they're fighting each other. But leaders are going to be looking for something a bit different than like almost the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that maybe an engineer or someone within the organization that's doing all the valuable work, they're going to have something foundational. When it comes to change, the first thing is, am I going to lose my job, or is my job going to change significantly in a way that I'm not going to love? Yeah, and so those are things that why I like to think about this stuff, not like a product, but I like to use my product chops a little bit when I think about introducing change. Because for all of you that are product managers or in this business, I mean, you're thinking about that all the time when you release new features, new functionality, right? Is how is this going to land? How do I need to effectively communicate? You're change managing your customers and users. And so why not leverage some of that when you're introducing change in terms of the way people work within an organization? I don't know.
I love what you were saying. And I'm going to add one more little add on there. And then I'm hoping that folks have some thoughts that they might chime in with about how this.
Oh, Amanda Huey turned on her camera. So, I mean, we're good now. I feel safe. So
there we go. We're good. We're okay. I'm thinking about the question of impact. And one thing that I'm finding as I go through multiple change efforts with multiple teams and companies full of talented people, that the linchpin, the place where it might hinge on, is can we measure the impact of what we have delivered? And there are so many things that go into that. There's a myriad of patterns and things that I can suggest that a team might try. But when you're looking for the bottom line, it is, are we able to understand the impact of what we have just delivered to our customers? And that can be a way to break open the conversation for a company that is then faced with that question and a little introspection, needing to say, I have no idea. We are building as many things as we can that our customers have asked us for, and we just don't know which ones are actually having the impact for our customers that we want. And that is the opportunity that I really like to lean into when we get into the tough questions of how might one implement a product mindset and benefit from it. Do you know what outcomes your customers are actually most motivated by?
Hey, Dylan, that's great. That's a great approach. And I would say this day, I have tried to use it. Kinda. So we talked when Josh was talking, like, how do you make transformation, just like how we work. So I'm in a new department, and without giving away too much, shockingly, we're trying to make money and save money.
What?
I know. So I was there. I was getting an update, and so I was just asking a simple question, like, how do we know that this thing is gonna do that? And do you know? And this is very common. Like, that was met with good, kind of like, blank stares, and then like, that's a good question. And then it just moved on to the next subject. So it's like, I'm not sure. I think sometimes transformation, like, you can do everything you can do, but somebody's got to be willing to, like, engage. So is that, yeah. But
what is safe enough? What is both safe enough and valuable enough that the company is going to dig in, where they're like, this would really benefit us. And by the way, if we totally bork it, we're not screwed. We're okay. And that magical combination there is individual to the company and their position and what's going on with them and their customers. But that's that sweet spot that you look for.
Right. Yeah. And I think that part of the oh, Renee, hi. I'm going to finish and say that, am I going to lose my job, or is my job going to change, is a really, like, that is real. And that I think part of the reason when I asked a question like that it was met with, like, good question and no further steps taken, is because nobody's being asked to do that for their job. like,
Mhm.
right? So
Mm.
I can't ask them to do that for their job.
Yeah, what's the
I
incentive?
Why
Yeah,
why would they
sorry,
care?
Renee. I want to.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. But that gets to incentive, which we talk a ton about. Like, are you incentivized to change? So,
Yeah,
Renee,
yeah.
what's going on?
Hello. Um,
Hey.
so what do you guys think about, I call it dripping information. And so, Amanda, maybe you just dripped the information or planted the seed, and there's conversations now happening that you aren't aware of, but sometimes I think there's patience that I need to have of like, okay, or I hear people saying the same thing over and over again. And then finally, it becomes someone's idea or it happens. And so I'm curious what this group thinks about that, of how important that might be to transformation and any
Mhm.
that.
Renee, that's so good. I'd love to see if anyone else has thoughts about it before I go jumping on my soapbox. Oh, okay. What success metrics have y'all used to measure transformation or change? Understanding it's dependent on the org, Wes. Great question, Wes. Okay, so Renee, I do, and help me remember, I have the memory of a mayfly, but help me remember, I want to get back to that question. And I will just say an interesting thing that I've been thinking about, Wes, as far as success metrics for traction, for transformation or change. I am looking to center those metrics around curiosity. Are people asking questions? Are people exploring something that isn't their normal daily routine? Are people deciding whether an experiment works or not? And it's a question that you can ask yourself and you can ask your team. What days am I curious and what days am I not curious? And what makes the difference between those two? When am I curious and inquisitive? When am I shut down and just trying to do what I need to do to get through my day? And that can be an incredibly valuable success metric to talk with people about. It's not the end goal, but it gets you to a really interesting point of view on what's working and what isn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the metrics thing is interesting. It's been a topic of, well, I mean, again, Paul and I were just kind of talking about this this morning. He was meeting with a leader that was talking about their objective for their transformation, for their coaching engagement. We always want to make sure with our team that when we're working with a leadership team that we understand what success looks like. So I think one quick one, then I'm going to get back to Renee. But one thing that I'm always really interested in with transformation objectives is there's some things to measure that I feel like are kind of table stakes, good things to watch. From an operational technology standpoint, DORA is always an amazing thing. We want to keep an eye on lead time to value and different things like that. But I want to know what that leadership team is wanting, like what hurts, just simply put, and what are you going to do to try to get it to stop hurting, and then let's measure progress towards that. Back, Renee, on your point on playing the long game, and I won't hit directly, I don't think, on your question, your kind of sentiment, but there's a tricky balance, I'll be vulnerable, that I struggle with when it's like playing the long game and like rolling out and just influencing slowly, versus like this brute force like we've been experiencing a little bit here and there earlier, but this brute force kind of, no, like thou shall change and you will change in these ways. It depends on, like, I guess it's a little bit back to the incentive thing, like the case for change. How urgent is that? And depending on who you're talking to, because if I'm talking to a person with an acronym in front of their name that starts with a C, they're going to be telling me about like revenue and cost and speed to market, speed to value, and things like that. And they're 9 times out of 9, they're going to have a sense of urgency of like last week in terms of change. We need to be able to deliver to market faster, to help the street understand the value proposition we provide in these ways. There's a strong sense of urgency there. How does that drip, so to speak, work? And then now trying to think about like the organization within that C-suite person's purview. How do you drip change or drip influence with them? It's challenging. So what I'm, again, back to the whole customer user thing, I want to find what motivates people and what inspires them and talk about the change relative to that for them. I've been kind of nerding out on storytelling. I've been terrible at it, just heads up. But I've been trying to think about how to communicate through storytelling to hit at the heart of like what people are looking for, what inspires them, what motivates them. Many of us aren't in a nonprofit business, right? I go to work to make money. Would I be working there if I wasn't making money? I don't know. I love my job, but I need the money. So money's always going to drive people, but also like what's putting a spring in everybody's step. Everybody from the C-suite person to the engineers that are building this value. I want to talk about the change, and that's how I, Renee, think about moving away from slow and steady wins the race, and balancing that with like, come on, we just got to get it done. I want to balance that with like, tell me what motivates you. I want to learn about you. I want to empathize. I want to hear your world, and then I want to talk about this bright new world that we're going to work towards through your eyes, through the motivations that you have, whether it's role clarity, whether it's a former project manager that has the makings of a great scrum master. And I want to talk to you about how you're going to love working in this new way. The challenges are going to be different every 2 weeks, and you're going to be coaching people, and it's going to be really exciting and really fun. You're going to be able to do the things that you love to do about your job. And some of the other stuff is going to go away because it's more dynamic. And I'm going to be talking to the C-suite person about how this is going to bring more transparency to their bottom line, and how they are going to be able to better communicate and share with their peers, and how the C-suite is going to be able to collaborate with more transparency through this change, and how they're going to look good at the end of the year because more than likely they're going to be delivering on what the customer and shareholders need. And so, sorry, I want to think about it in terms of storytelling so that other people can have the same sense of urgency that that C-suite person has.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the empathy part of it and kind of understanding where someone is. Yeah.
I think that's why our coaching team, who is led by Josh VandeWiele, who's a really good leader of that team. Oh, do we have to take a shot? I set him up.
All right.
I didn't realize I only have coffee.
So forget, guys. Anyway, they gave us these great templates to create strategy, vision and strategy for our products. And I think the way I have been able to use that is to tell those start with like an interview process, ask all your questions about the problems, like you're saying, and then say it back to them so that they that's what that strategy is for. Is sort of like articulate what you heard, give them an opportunity to correct course, and then share that with the team. It's like built-in alignment. So it's really, really nice to have some nice templates that sort of set us up with some good questions and some good a good framework for talking about the product strategy.
I love what you're saying there, Amanda, and I think that it's something which is it is one of the aspects of our work which can be considered one of the squishier topics, to use a technical term. But It is about, are we telling a story that people understand and connect to? And it's actually one of the experimental things that you can do before you build an expensive product is you can talk about, is this a real story? Does this fit into your work? Do you hear this story and go, oh, I'm so excited to try that? And all of that can happen before you build a thing. And then if you're rigorous, it happens while you build a thing, because you'll find out your actual thoughts were wrong and you can learn and you can change. So the storytelling is a core capability that is needed somewhere in the effort, because if people aren't inspired, then go work somewhere else. Oh, I know how to shut down a conversation.
No, it was we're just also inspired, Dylan.
Oh, there you go.
thought.
There you go.
Deep in
That's what I
thought,
was
yeah.
fishing for, Josh. Bless your heart.
No. It's
So-
good. It's good. Well, and real quick, I just
Do
me, sorry, took us on this tangent of storytelling. A part of some of the messaging that we've been doing and part of our brand within the coaching group at Principal that we've leaned into over the last couple of years. There's a woman by the name of Nancy Duarte. I think you say the E at the end. She wrote a book by the name of Illuminate. And it talks a lot about storytelling and storytelling through change. And it talks about the change curve in a really interesting way. She talks about different moments and different rituals that you can leverage to tell stories and to evangelize, so to speak, change. And it really landed for me as a product book. Like I could see, even though it isn't a product book, but it is. But it really helped me. It inspired me to think about some of our change messaging in a different way. People on the journey that they can come on together, and understanding and respecting very clearly, because I've been there, like that moment when someone comes in, it's like, get excited, we're changing, and it's like, holy crap, seriously, again? Like, what is it this time? Are we going to be sprinting for 3 weeks instead of 2? And like really helping people like get beyond that into where it's not just like an inflicted framework where now it's called, an IP sprint, and isn't it going to be fun? You're going to be able to do innovation, getting beyond that and making it really about what those individuals need, and then what the company or the organization needs.
I like the theme that we're centering around right now, because it is right in the middle of what I consider when I think about, is a company ready to take on a change effort? Because if a company is ready to hear new stories and commit to thoughts based on those new stories, then we have a path forward. If a company hears about these alternate routes to take and their reaction is negative or scared, often frightened is going to be the way to go because of the risk that's involved, then you need to address that first. If you don't have the buy-in, the understanding from leaders as well as builders of what we're trying and why it might be amazing, is the gas in the tank for your effort. And if you don't have that, then it's time to circle back and find that common understanding. I'm curious if any of you have had circumstances where there is a beneficial change to make, there is a path, there is a deliverable which we feel is sensible, but you find yourself encountering a change mechanism that has too much friction so that you cannot bring that to life, that potential to life. Do any of you have thoughts about or might be able to share about times when there was the potential, but it was tied up by the organization to where it did not achieve its reality? I think we've been through many of these. I know I have. Do you have any thoughts about it?
Oh, this looks really creepy as I turn my camera on, and I'm like extreme contrast here.
Do it, Wes.
Autonomous.
Do it.
Where was I on January 21st at 5:41 p.m.? I think like I think the bureaucracy around this is like kind of an interesting balance. I can say absolutely I have, like, and the bureaucracies I've seen has extended in like different ways. Like, is it regulatory or is it like just political, like inter-organizational politics? And I actually think that the inter-organizational politics that have hindered like positive outcomes and positive change within the organization is always harder to overcome, and therefore needs more of that like story that you would talk about, because regulation is like pretty cut and dry problem. It's like, here's the problem, now you got to find the solution, and we're all traveling in the same direction. But as soon as you hit those like political barriers, you're no longer traveling in the same direction.
Nice
100%.
call out, Wes. Yep. And it makes it a particularly powerful leverage point where you can talk about the people who are in the position of leadership who are not comfortable with the change. That is a great thing to dig into and say, what are we saving by staying the same? And what are we risking by making a change? And what might we gain by making the change? And that can, in some circumstances, your mileage may vary, open up a conversation which leads to a change experiment, which is illuminatory but doesn't cost too much, and people are able to buy into it. It always ends up being, from my perspective, a matter of where is the increment that we can try. But the important thing is, don't just try an increment. Try an increment that people have thought about and talked about and say, oh yeah, that actually might address our problem. And it doesn't freak me out too much, so you can try it to let me know whether or not it works out well for you. So digging into the why of everything that your company does is often the pass key into those conversations about what input are we going to measure to tell whether we've done something right. Do we actually realize that we don't know whether we've done something right, but we're pretty sure it's important? And lead into that conversation about measurement. And I'm finding this time and time again, there's so many things about agile process and delivery of value and understanding of customer needs that I believe in. But the constant throughout all of them that might be a great first step is just asking, do we have any idea what happens when we release new product? And just press on that. Do we know? No, we don't know. How might we know? How might we measure it? How might we tell what happens when we release something? And then all of these other practices branch out from that base assumption of we need to know whether or not we're having an impact. So it's my favorite pressure point right now. Who knows? 2 weeks from now, I may have a different experience, but I like it a lot.
You know, Wes, too, another thing that came to mind as you were talking. Well, of course, I go back to, I think about like people that I've found. I had a couple people that taught me over the last several years, like who to make friends with, and who to talk to, and who to get curious with, and peel back, you know, to the fishbone or the 5 whys or whatever it may be. But if your company has like strategists, like professional strategists that are meant to, which I've experienced this at a couple different companies. These are the people that understand the channels of how strategy runs through the organization, especially if your company is in more than one product line or business line. Those are good people to understand because they don't only know the paved roads, but they know like the cattle trails, and even the things that, you know, maybe haven't ran through recently. And they know who just like, well, if you just tell this to John, he'll give it the okay. The strategists are really helpful for that. Another group that I've found is really helpful is PMO, the project and portfolio management organizations. They've been around for a long time, and many of them, you get curious with them, and it's like sitting down with a veteran and hearing war stories. And you can start to hear all of the different, like, and they have all of these different perspectives on how decisions are made because they have that unique opportunity of access at like maybe more of a organizational, like a program or project or portfolio level. But then also they've worked with the folks down on the front lines delivering value, and they understand kind of both ends of that. So I've been making friends and getting really curious with those folks. And then with HR, in a couple different ways, because there's also a little bit of like this, like, especially when you start talking about the modes of operating, like operating model or making changes to structure. It reminded me, Wes, when you were talking about like regulatory. HR can often be perceived or is like colloquially messaged as like, it's regulatory, and like, well, we can't make those changes, or you got to go through the red tape. And like, if you just talk about what you're trying to achieve, oftentimes you can have a conversation about like, oh, if in order to make that type of organizational change, we would just want to make sure that and it strips away all of these, like, because oftentimes the game of telephone happens, right, where, oh, well, we can't make that kind of change because that's really hard, and you, like, you pick at that, and they're like, well, I've just always heard that's really hard, and like it's always slow when we've tried to do that. When we tried to bring two teams together or separate them, that's a long process. And you go talk to like one of your HR friends, and it's like, no, I mean, is it a reporting line structure? No, then we just need to work with both of the leaders to have a conversation with them, make sure we're squared away, and then we can do it. It's just a lot of the myth and like the big scary monster of some of these things. We lift up the sheets and we find like, oh, it's just the cat's stuffed mouse that they left under my bed.
Josh, I love the way you describe things. That's fantastic.
It's stupid. It's stupid.
I'm going to be checking underneath my bed for the mouse. I am definitely going to be. Yeah. So I want to ask, what do you folks think? What have you run into when it comes to bringing change and then sustained change? Because that's the real interesting nugget here, is how do you not just get change for 60 days, but get change that is self-sustaining and grows over time? And what gets in your way and what might help you? So for starters, I mean, it's up to you. I either tell us what has worked for you, or I often find it's easier to say what has gotten in the way. I'm interested in your opinions on either of those questions when it comes to affecting change within your organization. Wondering if you have any thoughts.
it feels like we're talking about change a lot without really defining change. But like
Yeah.
with product, aren't we basically going from, hey, we delivered X, Y, and Z this quarter to we're driving impact on these specific KPIs or numbers?
Mhm.
And then maybe on the engineering side, change might be, going from delivering quarterly to delivering daily, right? So on
Nice.
on the product side, you got to convince a lot of people, I would imagine, that being responsible for outcomes is a good thing, because everyone's exposed at that point, right? And there might even be like a whole bunch of things in the way to instrument to understand what X, Y, and Z is actually even doing. And it could take a quarter or two to even like understand the impact that some of your software features are delivering. And so I think Renee, mentioned, hey, let's start mentioning this early, instead of fully being responsible 100% at the first quarter, which obviously doesn't work. But I wonder if the message that people are receiving is like, well, I know that our team has delivered over the past 6 years quarterly on all their initiatives, or most of them, but now we're not really going to be graded on that anymore. We're going to be graded on outcome. Like, I don't feel like I can have an impact on the outcome because I don't even understand why we're even doing this work to begin with. But I've been doing a good job. I've been promoted for the last 5 years for delivering X, Y, and Z on a quarter. And now you're telling me that like I have to be responsible for results. I don't even know who's using this or what's happening. Like, it's a total mind shift. Like it's so much. And then them, not only that, is like their leaders who might be completely out of the loop, who sit in meetings 70% of every day.
Yeah.
Also responsible. And half the time they have no idea about what the team's working on or why it's working on. They just have talking points so they can report up. So it's like, it's a full stack all the way up to the top. Responsibility, which is a great book, of like understanding the impact that we're making, how we're going to measure it, and that my job isn't really on the line. But yeah, we're going to move into adulthood with this and try and learn and understand if what we're putting our energies to is actually going to be useful to the company or not.
Brad, that was so well said. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, it's just a lot, and
it is.
one group can take it on, but can feel totally squashed, or if their leader isn't also responsible, or if their leaders also are not responsible, then it just fails and everyone sees it's not real and then goes back to working the way they're working before.
I think that really hits on one of the things which is close to my heart, which is how might the entire organization, and most importantly the leaders, but really the entire organization, really over and over relentlessly message that if we are learning, we are doing our job, and to prioritize learning. And you can upfront make a good case for how learning will assist delivery, but that's got to be proven as well to get trust on it. But I think it's one of those things that we can actually get buy-in on from everyone in the business, which is, what impact do we have when we deliver software? And are we able to understand that, or are we guessing? And if we're guessing, can we make our guesses better and more scientific? Because that is the kind of message that everyone in the business, even if they're not super comfortable with Agile or anything else, they can get behind. Yes, I want to know if we have had a successful impact every time we deliver things. And it becomes this leading metric where if you say everyone is working on measuring the impact of what they deliver, then that starts to kind of cascade outwards towards, oh, wow, well, if we realize that we delivered something that we thought was awesome and then it totally didn't have any impact, wow, well, maybe on the next thing, we should do some more discovery up front to decide what the impact might be. So I hesitate to call out silver bullets, but measurement of impact is what I'd want, I don't know, in my 6-shooter as I am going up against werewolves. I don't know. I'm trying to find a way to say the silver bullet thing. I didn't catch it.
You
but I
should
was
say
trying.
Josh can probably come up. Yeah, I bet Josh can come up
Josh
with a
could
better
be much
one.
better
Like
for
that.
me. on
Great
that.
storyteller.
Oh no! Oh my god!
Great. Okay, so I wanted to say to that really quick, Dylan, like, what impact do we have when we deliver software? You have to be really delicate with that because there are engineers and product people who worked on something for 15 years.
Yes.
And if they can't answer that question, it's super uncomfortable. Like, so that's where
I feel like the Bob's
But
and
it's
what
also-
would you say you do here? Sorry,
Yeah,
Brad.
I'm a people
I mean,
person.
they know. Like, good engineers know, though, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they know if something's being used or not. It's just not
Right.
being brought up, through learnings, which is like the correct way to drive impact, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it's not the main accountability 9 times out of 10. It's often like, so you built it and you shipped it, and so then you grab the next thing and you build it and you shipped it. And they do know, to your point, Brad, like if that was being used or not, but are they incented to like give a shit about if it continues? In some cases, maybe not. And I talk about incentive. I'm even curious, like at the C-suite, to your point, Brad, like are you incented by like deliver on these 12 things? Because that happens plenty at that level too. Or are you incented to deliver on an outcome? I don't even care if it's like a 6% increase in revenue for this particular market. Great. That sounds like an outcome. Hold on to that as long as we can in terms of it being an outcome throughout your organization.
Even if they care, they may not feel it was within their control to do anything about. So it comes down to what you're saying, man. Like if people don't know what you're implying by the question, that might sound like you were like, I'm implying that I have judged you for the fact that this isn't being used.
Exactly.
Like, hey, I built what I was told to build.
If they're
Right.
if they're curious too, it's wonderful. It's a match made in heaven because they want to know.
Oh,
They
man.
want to be asked, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're asking. Nobody's using this. I've been working on it for several years. But you got to be curious, but you got to make sure you understand if the other person is curious too.
And I think that we have a lot of people who are trapped in the I'm immensely skilled and my way to succeed is to deliver more things, and that is inherently unsatisfying. So if we can dig into that and give them a way for their feedback response of success to be outcome based, there's a lot that gets unlocked, but it does not happen unless you unlock the entire chain. Otherwise, you have a team working really hard and not getting recognized.
The washing machine work. That's my final storytelling. It takes me back to Christmas Vacation, and when they're standing out there, and it's like, well, he worked really hard on it, Grandpa. He's like, so do washing machines. Well, we work really hard, but does it matter? Well, not if the lights don't come on the house. So anyway, I'll see myself out. Molly, I think we made it.
We did it. What a great way to
Amazing.
end, talking about the washing machine. I think we all need to drink, Josh. And thank you, everybody, for participating. Would love feedback. I'm sure you all enjoyed the entertainment at the beginning. I arranged all of that so that everybody can have some fun.
Well done. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We won't have that in person. But yeah, take a look at the February event. It's out on the meetup site already. Would love to see you there. if you have any suggestions, you'd like to volunteer, or maybe be a speaker, be a Dylan and Josh, we'd love to talk to you. So let me, Kent, or Jody know. But thanks for joining, and we're going to end on time, and have a great evening. Stay warm.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you.